interested in political science and economics. So I just kind of took those courses because I had only studied econ in school. I had never studied political science or sociology or any of the social sciences before. So I just wanted to see what the subjects were like. And luckily, once I took them, I was really interested. And then I even fell in love with the history department there. So I was even considering doing a triple major if it was possible, but then I didn't do that. So no advanced planning in before going, but once I went there, I took like in my first semester, I took econ and political science classes, and then I just kind of continued with them, um, coupled with other kind of departments that I was interested in within the social sciences mostly. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, of course, there must be people who have influenced you. You talked about having conversations for an hour with the professor when you only had a doubt which you thought could be clarified in a minute or two. What are the special people you recall at Vassar who sort of were instrumental in shaping the way you think and the rub off that you recall from those experiences?
Right. Too many, but it kind of like shifted from year to year naturally. But I would say of my 4 years, it would the top ones would be some of my closest friends and my professors, and then even like, for example, the college president. Because with each one of them, I learned something very, very different and very new. So with my friends, of course, I learned a lot about myself because just by sharing each other's experiences in a very, very intimate way, you kind of learned a lot of things in perspective. And another thing I learned was that the benefit of not only being friends with like familiar people, so not only being friends with South Asians, for example, is that you would often have to kind of contextualize a lot of your beliefs or your thoughts. And so in doing that, you would learn a lot about your assumptions and something that you had never questioned before, and vice versa. So that exchange, I think, was really meaningful for me. And with my professors, like by the time I graduated, I had spent like unlimited number of hours and occasions with them. Like with some of my professors, we like actually had a group of 5 to 6 people with two professors and 5, 6 students of like, and we hung out like on the weekends. We would make plans and we would hang out. So it would be like 8 hour days or nights or whatever, and we would just talk and listen to music and yeah. So like those kind of experiences really, like there's no way to describe how much that influenced me. Like it literally changed the way I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what
And
about
yeah.
the particular major choices? What did you actually learn in a political science major? If you look back and summarize, or even in the economics major, what are the different tracks available to students at Vassar? How do you see overlaps between the two subjects, which obviously there are, and what are the graduation requirements, or anything else that you might think would be useful?
Right. Graduation requirements at Vassar are very little. You just need to take like one class in each division and just kind of go where you want to. So it's not very rigid in any sense of the term. So for that, you have complete freedom to explore whatever you want. In specifically to the things that I majored in political science, we have a very strong like American political science department, comparative politics, political theory, and so on and so forth. So the thing I focused in was a subset of all of that, which was post-colonial theory, and that kind of deals with how, uh, like how colonialism and imperialism in many ways have shaped our world, and our ways of thinking. So that theory kind of that subset deals with how you can recognize that and kind of push back against it. In econ as well, of course, you have all the regular tracks, macro, micro, finance, stuff like that. And in that, I kind of focused on macro, and the overlaps are obvious, like between economics and political science. Like one doesn't go without the other. Yeah.
So, as far as you got involved in a refugee initiative and then also student government, uh, was there something that you learned from your political science and economics class, or in general, just being a student at a fairly active, with a very active student body? How was the experience of being part of these organizations?
It was life changing. Like the refugee initiative, we like we were part, like we co-founded it, and then and I co-founded it with a professor of mine, and then we never knew what it would become. And today it's a 7 college consortium funded by the Mellon Foundation for $1.5 million. So, and that came out of nothing. And that's, I think, the beauty of a place like Vassar, where you can do this with a professor of yours. You have all the structures available to you to kind of actually make it something meaningful, and everyone will support you. And of course, there'll be challenges, but the point is that you
What
can
does
do
it
it.
do, the Refugee Initiative?
There's a lot of stuff that it does. So one of the things was we opened a resettlement office in the local community. So we resettled a few people. Then a lot of it deals with curriculum restructuring. So thinking of instituting a minor for forced migration studies. And then there's a lot of digital initiatives. So there's a lot of language exchange where refugees can teach us Arabic, we can teach them English, stuff like, as an example. It's of course more widespread than that. A lot of like job application support, just wide ranging in everywhere. A lot of like artist exchanges. Over the summer, we get people from the local community who are forcibly displaced and kind of get them on track for a college education. And yeah, those are just some of the things
So I
that it
think
does.
in times
Yeah.
of the pandemic that we are living in, the whole refugee initiative could have a very different meaning as well, with so many
Hmm.
people on the run or on
Exactly.
exodus from major cities. What are your thoughts on migrants and in general where the world is heading to deal with kind of issues of immigration and kind of refugees?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we like to use the term forced migration because refugees is a state term. So migration, I don't think people realize it's shaped the way that the world is structured, right? So, and forced migration specifically is, I think, one of the biggest challenges the world has in, like, with along with climate change, right? So, and climate change and forced migration are very interlinked together. So like, because what something like forced migration does is challenge the very notion of of a nation. Like, what does it mean to be an Indian, when you have so much intra-migration and when you have so much inter-migration between the borders of the Indian state, right? And what does it mean to be Syrian or American or German in these situations? And that very basic assumption gets challenged when you have someone like a refugee come into your borders and wanting it to call that place its home, his home, and you want to say that that's, yes, this is your home, but somewhere, but you know the pushback against it, right? So it kind of challenges the history of your own country, the history of where you think your place in that country is. And so I think migration on a very basic level calls into question a lot of stuff that we assume to be true, but they're not. And that for me is the very interesting thing. But on a more human level, of course, the human aspect of it, and just in terms of the sheer number and the sheer depth of it, is mind-boggling. And any initiative or any kind of program is too little for that. Um,